welcome back to TBA. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Brad, and today we got a jam-packed show with not one, but two studios interview. But first up, here comes News of the Week.
Hi, I'm Sam. This is your News of the Week. Mexico has been hit with a strong earthquake, killing more than 100 people and collapsing dozens of buildings in Mexico City. The 7.1 magnitude occurred on the anniversary of a 1985 earthquake that claimed thousands of lives. Malcolm Turnbull has rejected the call for Australia to initiate a sugar tax in order to combat Australia's obesity crisis. The sugar tax would see a 20% tax on any sugary drinks, including soft drinks, energy drinks, cordials and all non-alcoholic beverages. A pilot and his passenger have miraculously survived a light plane crash in Sydney's west. The Pipe Archer 3 aircraft narrowly missed homes, crashing into a paddock at West Hoxton. The pilot made a dramatic mayday call, reporting engine failure before making the emergency landing. Both on board escaped unharmed. The same-sex marriage postal surveys are still underway. If you want to voice your opinion, be sure to fill out the forms as soon as possible. CCTV footage released by a Melbourne court revealed the distressing scene of an asylum seeker, Nur Islam, dousing the floor in petrol before igniting it using a cigarette lighter. Visions of mortified customers trying to flee the bank as the flames grew to a massive fireball, blocking the only exit. 29 people were injured and 4 were seriously injured. Back to you guys in the studio.
What a week.
Have you filled your postal survey out yet?
Yes, I have. Have you?
Yes, I have. Not too difficult to fill in one box, folks.
Not at all. All right, now the war on waste continues with the Wollongong campaign to eliminate plastic.
UOW held its first ever Enviro Day in partnership with organisations such as the Boomerang Alliance to encourage the community to go plastic free. Globally, 95% of plastic is used once, then often discarded as litter. Researchers estimate that if this trend continues, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish by 2050.
We need to look after our coastal environment. We know the impacts that plastic is having on marine and wildlife, and we can change that if we act now.
Initiatives such as the Plastic Free Wollongong campaign puts emphasis on both individuals and businesses to ditch single-use plastic in favour of reusable alternatives.
I think Wollongong's ready to go plastic free. I think everybody just needs to take it upon themselves to make the small changes and just come together as a community.
Boomerang Alliance hopes that by targeting the 6 priority areas covering straws, takeaway containers, cutlery, cups, as well as plastic bags and bottles, disposable plastic consumption will have decreased by 70% over the next 3 years. Lucille Gorin, UOW TV Multimedia.
Thanks, Lucille. Kate, have you got yourself a keep cup yet?
Not yet, no.
You better get onto it.
All right, now we have an in-studio interview with Mad Matt, the four-wheel drive coordinator for the film Rough Stuff. We're now joined in studio with Mad Matt. He's going to talk about the production of the film Rough Stuff. So can you tell me about your role in the film?
Well, Rough Stuff's this crazy four-wheel drive movie that's all about adventure in the Australian, this fictitious Australian outback sort of environment. It's a place called MEWS Valley. Well, my role as a four-wheel driver was to bring four-wheel drive action into the movie in a way that was both fun and engaging for the audience and responsible to the environment and the four-wheel drive community. So it was quite challenging, but an awful lot of fun.
So what's the importance of the film to the Australian film culture?
Well, as a four-wheel driver, to answer that question is probably a little tricky, but I love the way the director of the movie, Jonathan Adams, really captured the essence of Australia, the big open country. The opening scene of the movie is this iconic to the horizon dirt road, four-wheel drives having a chase along this road, and that sort of Australian action really is iconic and exciting, and it takes me personally back to some of the Mad Max type of movies that we used to see. I really enjoyed seeing that in a modern movie.
Now, I haven't seen the movie, and I imagine a lot of people at home
Your life's
probably
poorer for it.
I think it might be. I've heard a lot of really good things. Kate's been talking about a lot. Can you just sort of give the audience a sort of brief overview of what the film's about? Okay,
so we've got some adventurers, and it revolves around a bunch of guys called the Rovers. They're kind of outlaws. They've been in trouble with the law, so they live in the MEWS Valley area, and it's just this community of people that are in the dark shadows, and they get roped into a going on an adventure or taking some environmentalists on this crusade that they're on. They're not really interested in it other than they've got to go and chase up and they get the reward of finding Stray's gold. So it's kind of got this gold rush story in it. They're in it for that. But look, at the end of the day, it's a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously, has a whole heap of fun along the way, and has a dig at just about a whole bunch of different sectors of the community at the same time in a really engaging and fun way. So there's just this whole bunch of really well developed characters. We've got Buzz, he's the lead actor and lead character, and he's got a whole bunch of issues in his life, and he's sort of no man's man, but he needs his mates, and yeah, it's just a whole heap of fun. So.
Now, you filmed it out at Lithgow, and I might be a little bit biased here because that's where I was raised, so I think it's God's country, but how did you find filming out there?
Well, I regularly go to Lithgow for four-wheel driving for a whole bunch of different reasons, so I know the area really well. But filming in that area, the community, the Lithgow community, was really welcoming and excited to have us there as a movie. We spent 3 weeks on first unit just filming a lot of the dialogue and so on, and then we spent another couple of weeks filming the second unit action and getting all of those cutaways to come together and just pulling the action together. So myself and some of my mates who I had in my team, we know that area so well that Jonathan Adams, the director, would say, I'm looking for a place where there's a couple of big trees and the four-wheel drives can come through an intersection like this. And we could scratch our nut and go, hang on, come with us. And we'd take them out to some back trail and, how about this? And perfect, great. And we'd do the bit of action there. So those of us who know the area really well, when we watch the movie, you can see them going, they know the intersection, or they know the hill climb that we're doing, or the mud hole we're going through. They're like, oh, I got stuck in that, So it's yeah.
So I've seen the movie multiple times, but for people who haven't, why should they go see this movie?
Great Australian movie, for starters. It was made on a ridiculously small budget, and I won't tell you how small, but it was ridiculously small, but the end result is awesome. It's got some really great reviews from people, and what's more, I'm head of security in the movie, and I can just say I won't be going into acting. I don't think I did very good there, but hey, we had a whole heap of fun making it. It's just a great, fun movie, and, it's not Hollywood, but yeah.
So where can people get out and see it?
Head to the website, is roughstuffmovie.com.au, I think is the website address. But just Google Rough Stuff Movie and it'll come up. And you can get it on iTunes, Google Play, places like that, and watch it. You can buy the DVD. It's no longer in cinemas now. It's out there in home release and all that. And we're hoping that it's going to actually, do well overseas. There's certainly some interest from distributors overseas, so that'll be fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we really hope we do see a sequel to this movie.
I've heard that it's already been written, and yeah.
That's very exciting news.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that now.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy again. So,
awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
This week, the university's ultimate frisbee team had a trivia night to fundraise a trip up to Queensland. So we sent our reporter Stuart to do what Stuart do. Check it out.
Hi, Stuart here. We're in building 43 on campus. It's 7 p.m. on a Friday night, and we are ready to do some trivia. It's a bit chilly but warm inside, so I'm ready to take off my jacket. I've got my thinking brain on, so let's head in.
Yes! Okay, I trust you. I know where to find it out.
And what's tonight all about?
So it's about raising money for uni games. So we're heading off to represent University of Wollongong in ultimate frisbee. We hope to do very well, and we'll see how we go. So just because it's a lot of money just to get to Queensland, so that's where it is this year, we're hoping just to raise a bit of money just to help those uni students to get there. Definitely sport. So that's my winning category.
See, our problem for our team is none of us know nothing about sport, so maybe if you want to join our team, we might have a better chance then.
That sounds like a good idea.
I got invited by my friend.
Very nice.
And I just felt like coming. I like trivia.
Nice. And what category are you looking forward to the most? Like, where's your strength?
Oh gosh, I usually just know random things, so I guess the art.
Called when you change a solid into a gas without it becoming a liquid in between. Who has some luscious locks going?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. They're all very traditional with their short haircuts and find mine a little bit silly. So if they can get enough money, I will shave my head tonight. I will begrudgingly shave my head.
How much, Sam, would it take for you to shave your head tonight?
Yeah, well, I can't say no to the money because we're going away to the Gold Coast in a couple of weeks and it's very expensive. So if we can raise $400 for that, I'll be stoked.
We're almost at the end of the trivia tonight. How have you fared so far?
Some of the rounds we thought we did really well and bombed out. And we've tried to pay for some answers, but they haven't accepted my donations, unfortunately. So I'm not thinking we're going to win tonight, but that wasn't really the aim, I guess.
Playing Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Our winner is... My drinking team has a trivia problem.
If they ever hold it again, I definitely can recommend coming out here. It was a great cause. This has been Stuart Thompson reporting. Back to you in the studio.
It's definitely a good cause.
Absolutely. And Stuart there with a little bit of accurate weather at the top of that story. Speaking of accurate weather, the weather's sort of heating up a little bit. So Riley got down at the beach this week to give you a few tips about staying safe in the water.
Hi, my name is Riley and I'm here to teach you some beach safety facts. Tip number 1, swim between the flags. You are not an Ironman, you are not a pro. The lifeguards know what they're doing and stay between those flags. Tip number 2, watch out for rips. Rips can be easily identified by back-moving water or turbulent sand within the water. If you find yourself in a rip, the best strategy is to either swim parallel to the beach until you don't feel the current and swim back in, or float on your back and wait till it takes you as far out as it does, and then swim parallel to the beach and swim back in. If you find yourself unable to swim all that way back in, put your hands up and wait for a lifeguard to come rescue you. That's what they're here for. Do not thrash around, don't panic, you'll waste energy and you'll quickly sink. That's very morbid. Do not swim against the rip. You will not win. My name is Riley and these have been some beach safety tips.
Some great tips there for staying safe in the water.
Absolutely. I do expect my lifeguards to be a little less hairy than that, but what do you do? Up next, we have Jake Cupid in the studio, who is the founder of Pod Squad, which, as you can imagine, likes talking about podcast. Now, we've got Jake in the studio who's talking about his new initiative, Pod Squad. Jake, how are you?
Hi, how you going? Thanks for having me on the show.
So can you tell us a little bit about the initiative?
Yeah, so I went to Ozpod a few weeks ago. It was at ABC Ultimo, and it was the second meeting that they've had, just where podcasters get together to talk about the industry, and professionals that are already quite prosperous in the field come and give keynote speeches. Richard Fidler was there, Jen White from WBEZ Chicago. She just recently finished making Oprah. And it got me thinking, why don't myself and some friends who are also interested in podcasts start a listening group similar to a book club, but for the modern age?
Now, there's a lot of potential with podcasts, like obviously in all sorts of different genres and that sort of thing. So do you want to talk about how you think they can sort of be used as a tool? Or
yeah, absolutely. So I think that podcasts are very effective in telling stories. Purely because they're similar to books in that you don't use your eyes. When you're listening, you use your imagination. How when you're reading, you don't read the words, you sort of picture the image in your mind as it's happening. So there's a great deal for intimate connection. You can talk about emotional topics, and it doesn't limit itself to any particular genre of theme. There are different kinds of podcasts like Chumcasts, where a group of people just talk about some things, their day or specific topics. There are true crime stories that talk about the murders and how they've come to light. There are comedy podcasts where people tell jokes, and then there are the more rooted in radio techniques, documentary styles like This American Life and Radio Lab.
Yeah. So you were just talking about Chumcast. Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think Siobhan McHugh coined that term. So it's essentially just people chatting at a round table about different topics. Every episode is different, and it can be from educational based, so stuff like Stuff You Should Know is a podcast out of America, two guys, Josh and Chuck. Every episode is about a different thing, how it works. For example, there was a 2-part series on how HIV/AIDS works, how dreams work, how anesthesia works, and it's all very interesting to learn. There's the Joe Rogan Experience, where Joe Rogan, an American comedian and commentator, gets on with some friends and they talk about what's happening in the news. There is one with Sam Harris called Waking Up, and he gets on experts in academia. They talk about philosophical topics and stuff that tries to expand the zeitgeist.
So how do people get involved with this?
Well, you can listen. That's the best place to start. Jump on the iTunes podcast site and look for something that's popular. Just because something is popular doesn't mean it's great. You could listen to the radio and see what you think is good. And you can just look at anywhere. Just Google online top 10 podcasts that are out, and it'll take you to a few different kinds of websites. Richard Fidler is very popular in Australia at the moment, #1 downloaded podcast in the country.
So are you a podcaster yourself? Do you have any shows? Or?
Yeah, so I make 2 shows. One's in pre-production and one's continuing on. The first one I started here at university is called Man of the Hour, and it's about the changing definitions of masculinity over time with a feminist perspective. So looking at how what it means to be a man today is different to what it was decades ago. And the second podcast that I'm in pre-production now at the moment doesn't have a title, but it's about millennial life and how it's different. Classic remark your parents will say, "Oh, just go get a job." Well, it's not that easy to go get a job these days, and they don't know that is different. So it's all about how there is a disconnect between us as millennials and previous generations.
Okay, so you're tackling some sort of interesting topics there. So what's sort of the idea of the changing face of masculinity? What have you sort of come across there?
So at one point in history, to be a man meant that you worked, that your wife or your partner stayed at home raising the children, and that you drank beer and you fixed the lawnmower on the weekend and you did all the gruff things and you had facial hair and all that antiquated stuff. But now the definition of what it means to be a man is myriad and different. Who's to say that a man who's had his testicles removed because he had cancer is not a man? So it got me thinking, what is the definition of a man? What does it mean to be masculine? You could go to a feminist women's rights rally and still be just as manly as someone who digs holes for a living and drinks VB on the weekend with their mates.
Absolutely. And you'll sort of be launching a bit of a regular program here on TBA. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I've been invited onto the show every fortnight to talk about the top 5 podcasts that are popular at the moment and maybe introduce some things that aren't quite well known that maybe an audience can be gained for. Shall we start with a list?
We shall.
Great. So the first thing I think everyone should listen to that's extremely popular at the moment is called S-Town. And it's a production between Serial and This American Life. The producer and host is Brian Reed from This American Life. And it's 8 episodes, 1 hour each, about the life of a man in Alabama called John McLemore. And John McLemore originally gets in contact with Brian from This American Life to talk about a murder that's been covered up. Turns out there was no murder, it was just some miscommunication. But Brian was intrigued with John. He found him very interesting and engaging and wondered why a man that was so academically minded was living in the slums in the deep south of America. Very popular, very well renowned, very highly recommended. Second on the list, and my personal favourite, is a podcast called My Brother and Me. And it's about 3 brothers, Justin, Travis and Griffin, and they talk about Yahoo Answers. So Yahoo Answers is a place where people ask questions about things and then people get on the forums and answer the questions. The listeners of the podcast send in screenshots of these questions that are quite peculiar and funny, and the 3 brothers improvise about them. Questions like, if Ash from Pokemon had a gun, what type of gun would he have? Strange things like that. The third podcast that I think is well worth listening to is WTF by Mark Maron, and he talks with celebrities, politicians, musicians, sports legends about their life and what they've been up to, sort of biographical, interview-based, similar to Richard Feidler's Conversations, but with a much more of an American tone. Fourth is Radio Lab with Robert Krulwich and Jada Bumrad. Highly polished, highly produced, lots of music, lots of atmos, lots of layers, stories told with sound that are, here's a quote, investigations told through sound where music, science and culture collide. So lots of different topics, really engaging and a great opportunity for the listener to get deeply involved in particular stories. And the last one on the list today, and something that I think is worth listening to forever, it's called The Moth. And it's essentially live recordings of people telling stories on stage to crowds without notes. Poetry, fact, fiction, personal experiences, very engaging and a great chance to sort of get a different spread of ideas. American-based, so there is that lens to it, but still very accessible to lots of different people.
All right, a lot of really interesting content there. We'll be looking forward to having you back in. So
thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
It's a great little modern twist to your traditional book club, and it's good to have Jake on the team. Now the girls are in the kitchen and they're whipping up some chocolate-covered bananas.
Hey guys, welcome to the 13th episode of Food for Thought. This is a segment where we show you how to make cheap and nutritious foods. Yeah, and today we're going to show you how to make chocolate-coated bananas. So this is what you're going to need. Very simple ingredients. You're going to need obviously your bananas. We're just using one banana, but you can use as many as you want. And we're using dark chocolate to coat our bananas. And lastly, we are using some bikinis, which is a type of grain. You could use coconut or chocolate chip flakes, anything you want to form the outside of your banana. So the first thing you want to do is you want to grab your chocolate. We're using dark chocolate. We're going to melt it. Once it's all nice and melted, you want to grab your banana, chop it into about 3 cups, then dip it into your dark chocolate mixture. Once it's dipped in, then you want to roll it into the bikinis or coconut flakes, and then put it on a plate or container and put it in the freezer and wait for it until it's done. So this is our final product. Here we have our banana, chocolate-covered bananas with bikini crust, which is like, it gives it like a really nice crunchy, chocolatey bar texture. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you like today's recipe. Join us next time where we show you how to make cheaper and even more delicious food. See you guys.
Well, if you're struggling to get a banana into your diet, that's the way to do it.
Alright guys, now it's time for the Mews.
Welcome back to the Mews. We can all feel summer around the corner with the weather heating up, but the nights aren't just getting warmer, we can assure you they're getting louder too. Wollongong is kicking off its Fringe Festival this week, meaning we have a whole bunch of extra gigs along with our usual standout haul. Tonight, Strawberry Boogie are bringing a special edition to help kickstart the Wollongong Fringe Festival. Musicians such as Mudo, Stump, Sunscreen and Johnny Hunter will all be in attendance at Howling Wolf in a one-off location change for the event. And of course, we have the magnificent Meg Mac gracing Unibar tonight. Winner of the Triple J Unearthed Artist of the Year Award in 2014, it's no surprise this gig sold out pretty quick. If you were lucky enough to snap a few tickets, be sure to head down early to catch her awesome supporting acts, including Georgia Fair, who you might remember from their upbeat summer tune Picture Frames, which featured on Big M's chocolate milk ad back in 2010. If you're down for just a boogie tonight, head over to Heyday, where Sydney-based duo Pals have returned to Wollongong to give you a selection of some of their favourite local DJs, ensuring you are glued to the dance floor all night. Kilter and Just a Gent are co-headlining a gig tomorrow at Unibar. These guys are sure to be some of the hottest acts in Australian electronic music, with Kilter having recently performed an epic show at this year's Splendour in the Grass, and Just a Gent being announced as support for San Holo's upcoming US tour. Or you can head to Rad to catch the indie rock tunes of Lepai. Showcasing her sophomore EP Sad Girl Theory, the young musician has been said to be making music out of pop textiles. And for a hit of funk, King Dog and the Cats will be playing at Howling Wolf tomorrow. Blending the genres of funk, folk and soul, the Kiama-based four-piece band will have you bopping along to their buoyant and carefree beats. And to celebrate its second birthday, Pride Tide will be holding celebrations this Saturday at Rad Bar. Now, Pride Tide aim to put on a series of social events and gigs throughout the year to give the LGBTQIA and ally musicians a platform to get some experience under their belt. With an awesome lineup featuring Baby Machine, Rachel Maria Cox, Queer and Revenge and heaps more, it will be kicking off at 1 p.m, so get down to show your support and groove your way through Saturday. And Rad Bar will be your go-to from Sunday to Wednesday next week. Sunday, they're hosting the four-piece hardcore punk band Clowns. These Melbourne boys are just coming off the back of a European summer circuit, so head along for some fresh raging energy. Tuesday, we'll have local bands Step Panthers and Kaleidoscope, and Wednesday, they'll be bringing back summer with the sounds of Sydney's four-piece band Morning TV and Brisbane's Born Joy Dead. We are absolutely spoiled for choice this week, so dust off your dancing shoes and get out and about. Stay tuned for what's happening on the Muse each Thursday.
Seems pretty topical that Pride Tide's on this week, so I'd definitely get down and check that out.
Yes, for sure. Well, guys, that's all we've got for you today, so hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
I've been Brad.
I'm Caitlin. Bye.